What's up, everybody? My name's Trey, and welcome back to another video. And we have an update, finally. So, I finally have narrowed down what exactly I'm going to do when it comes to my ACL reconstructive surgery. So, I'm going to go over the four different types of surgery. We're going to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to tell you why I picked the one that I specifically picked, and hopefully, you're learn something in this video. But if you are somebody that's new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and notification bell to get notified every time I post a video. And leave a comment in the comment section down below of your thoughts, or if you've ever had ACL reconstructive surgery, what did you pick and how were your results? After surgery, do you have full range of motion? Are you able to run? Are you able to work out? Did you go back to playing sports, or living an active lifestyle? Or just love to hear your story, or read it, I guess, in the comment section down below. But there are essentially four different types of surgeries that you can actually have when it comes to ACL reconstructive surgery. So the first one is a patellar tendon graft, which everything that I've read, everything that I've heard, meeting with my orthopedic surgeon, discussing like my surgery options, the patella tendon graft option is not great, apparently. Pretty much everything that I've read about it is it's the hardest to rehab afterwards when it comes to just overall pain in the knee. Also, just getting your flexion and extension back in your actual leg. It doesn't seem like a great option for me personally, or anything that I read. And my orthopedic surgeon even said, "Hey, I could very easily do this surgery if you want it, but if you do pick this one, I will recommend you to a different orthopedic surgeon. I just don't like doing this one. I have not had good results when it comes to just long-term, like longevity, when it comes to using the patella to rebuild your ACL." So he and I both decided that probably not going to do that, because I don't really want knee pain. Like, I know it's going to hurt when I'm rehabbing it and after surgery, but I want to make sure that I'm having pain from rehab specifically because my muscles are atrophied, and not because the knee itself now is just in pain, if that makes any sense. So after I have surgery and I go to rehab and I'm doing squats or leg extensions or hamstring curls or calf raises, whatever the case may be, and I'm like, man, this really hurts my leg. I want that pain to be more of a soreness pain, to where if you went to the gym and you had to do 200 push-ups straight, like, man, I'm pumped, my arms hurt, like this is just a lot of volume, like this is tough. That's the kind of pain that I would really like to have. I don't want there to be pain like I have in my right knee, which is if I touch my right knee or if I kneel on my right knee, I feel pain, as in like, hey, something's wrong with my knee. So far, that's the only time that I do have pain, so we'll address that later, I guess. I guess. So, definitely not doing the patella. Like I said, it's just my surgeon said, hey, I'm not going to do it. You have to go somewhere else anyway. And all the results that I've seen when it comes to online talking to people who have had ACL surgeries and on Reddit and different forums, it's not the surgery that I think would work best for me. Now, when it comes to the next one, that would be using your quad as the main tendon to rebuild your actual ACL. This is also one that I'm not going to go with, because it looks like the quad itself, picking that specific muscle group is more for people who are, I guess I should say, leaner, who are smaller, who don't have a lot of muscle mass in other parts of their body, and the quad just happens to be their biggest muscle. So they basically will use that because they just don't have other options to pull long tendons to rebuild the ACL. I'm also not doing that because the scar is really big, and I like my quad. I've worked really hard getting a pretty defined quad for me, or I personally think my quad have a decent amount of development. So I'm not going to be doing the quad. I also heard rehab on that is much worse than the other two options that we're going to talk about here in a second, which are the cadaver and also the hamstring graft. So I'm not going to do the quad. my surgeon also said he doesn't recommend the quad unless I was, you know, 5'8", 120 pounds. Like, unless that was just the biggest muscle group I had, I was pretty lean, I was super skinny, then maybe, but I'm not. I'm a little hefty guy. You feel me? I'm a big man. So we're not doing that one. The two that we have essentially brought it down to was the hamstring and the cadaver. So my cousin actually had this exact same surgery about 2 years ago, and she used the hamstring. She's now at the point where, she's gone through her rehab after surgery. She's back to playing sports. She's not 100% like back to the same strength that she was before she had surgery, but in a short period of time, I'm sure she'll be back to, lifting the same weight, running the same speeds, and all that stuff. But she did have a healthy recovery, and it's a person that I know personally who had the hamstring, and it was the first surgery that my surgeon recommended, because it seems like the hamstring is just kind of the gold standard now when it comes to ACL reconstructive surgery, because your hamstring for most people are pretty well developed. A lot of people have tendons in their hamstring that are long enough, that are strong enough to be able to do the ACL. And because you're taking from your own body compared to the cadaver, it's an easier healing process, because your body is like, oh, this is not our original ACL, but these are tendons that we do recognize. Hey, this is not like a foreign entity into our body. This is just our body in a different location. So healing does go a little bit easier. But again, I and my surgeon have decided that it might not be the best option, as I want to try my very best to preserve the rest of my leg. Like, yes, I blew out my ACL, but I don't want to have to take from my hamstring to rebuild my ACL, because then I'm damaging a healthy hamstring and an already damaged ACL. So we also went against that. Like I said, it is kind of the gold standard when it comes to taking your own tissue to rebuild your ACL. But I think for myself, there is a better option. So the last one we're going to talk about is a cadaver, which is essentially is using a different person's tendons and ligaments, or potentially ACL, or whatever the case may be, to then build my own ACL. The biggest drawback that my surgeon kind of spoke about was integrating a foreign tissue into my body. So the healing process is going to take longer. He said the normal amount of time for like a hamstring or quad or even a patellar tendon is about 9 months or so, where when it comes to the cadaver, it's going to be closer to 12 to 15 months. And I'm like, well, if I can save the rest of my leg, and it just takes, let's say 6 extra months to get back to where I was before surgery, I'm perfectly fine with that, because I'm going to have to rehab anyway. It's going to suck and it's going to take a long time. So why not take a little bit longer, and then I get to preserve the rest of my leg. Now, there are some drawbacks that he told me about. He said he wasn't too terribly concerned about them. He said they do them a lot. My main concern with the cadaver was that I was going to get somebody's tendons or ligaments or ACL or whatever from somebody who was like 80 years old and not physically fit or not physically active, and that was the type of graft I was going to have, essentially from just like an elderly, old statesman type of donor. But he said pretty much they just have a freezer in the back that just has a ton of different tendons and stuff that they can use. And the average donor, which some people just go in there and donate, their tissue when it comes to their hamstrings or their quad or their tendon, which is wild to me. But big shout out to y'all, because I will be using y'all's. And some people pass away and they happen to be organ donors, so they use theirs and actually give them to people to use for the graft. So that's my main concern was. But I also had another friend, Juan, shout out to you, Juan, who had the cadaver to rebuild his ACL. I think he's gonna very likely to be a pro bodybuilder here in a little bit. I think he one or two more shows and he can definitely get a pro card. So it's nice to personally know somebody who's had the surgery, it's gone well for them, and it hasn't necessarily impeded their range of motion, it hasn't impeded their strength. Obviously the recovery is longer, but it seems like as long as I stick to it, I'm focused on recovery and treat my body right, which I thought I was doing this whole time, but whatever, I guess, that I can come back and be at the level that I was at before I injured myself. So we did pick, well, my surgeon and I decided that the cadaver option was going to be the best option for me personally. So that is the way that we're going to go. I think it's really going to be hard for me to wrap my head around just like rehab in and of itself, because I am a person that likes working out. I'm a person who, in my opinion, I do my best to work out pretty hard or pretty intensely. I like to sweat. I like to know that I'm trying hard. And my biggest thing is, specifically when I'm doing rehab, that I don't want to work out too hard and cause any more damage than is needed to my ACL, to my knee, to my joint, to anything like that. So I guess having just like a legit plan that I can follow from my physical therapist after I get done surgery will be really good. But we have now decided that we are doing the cadaver route, and we will document the process, see how it goes. Hopefully I am making the right decision. But really, for the most part, he said if I go with the quad, or if I go with the hamstring, or I go with the cadaver, just like medicine as a whole has kind of advanced to the point now where any of those three options outside the patella, because like I said, every place I read was like, patella is not the way to go anymore, don't do that. And my surgeon was like, you got to go somewhere else for that. So, and I'm going to trust his judgment and the mounds and mounds of research that I've done on the internet telling me that patella tendon ain't the way to go. But for those three, hamstring, quad, and donor, that the healing rate for all of them is almost exactly the same. Obviously, the rehab process for the cadaver or the donor tissues in your body takes longer for your body to heal and get accustomed to having a foreign entity like in your, or foreign body, foreign, yeah, I mean, it's just foreign, it's just you're not supposed to be here, dog. In your body, so it takes a little bit longer. But he said in 5 years, if you go through rehab, you're serious about it, you gain full range of motion, you wouldn't know the difference between your hamstring, your quad, or the cadaver, and it's going to cause less scarring, because with that specific surgery, they're not having to take from any other parts of my leg, so it should just be a small incision of where they're actually doing the surgery to reconstruct my ACL, instead of, having to cut my quad open or cut my hamstring open or cutting all the way down my leg for my patella tendon, for them to gain access to the areas in which they're going to use to rebuild my ACL. So I know it was a little bit long-winded. Hopefully that explained everything in its entirety. Basically, if you didn't hear anything I said, there's four types. There's patella tendon. In my opinion, in everything that I found online, in my orthopedic surgeon's opinion, that is not the way to go. So if you are somebody that's like, man, I really don't know what surgery to have, everything that I found said do not pick that one unless you want to have knee pain 100% guaranteed. So don't do that one. When it comes to the quad, they will pick the quad if you don't have large enough hamstrings, or you're too young to get a donor, or if that's just the muscle group that you decide. Maybe you have massive quads and you don't have anything else, then maybe it'd be a really good decision for you if you want something that's strong and durable that you know is going to work. There's the hamstring, which is kind of the gold standard when it comes to if you want to use your own tissue. The hamstring for most people is one of your largest muscle groups on your body. So for a lot of people, it's really easy for them to take a few tendons and not throw them off too terribly much when it comes to their strength compared to their other leg. And then they also have the donor or the cadaver, which is using somebody else's ligaments, which I think is going to be the best option for me, because I would like to do my best to preserve what muscle I do have in my leg. It reduces the amount of incisions that I have to have when it comes to, getting those tissues and harvesting them and, making my ACL from them. But the main drawback is, what if my body rejects the donor's tissues that they put in my leg? What if I do get somebody who, yes, they're between the ages of 20 and 25, they donated, their tissues, but maybe they didn't work out or they didn't eat healthy. Like, I'm sure they have a whole screening process, but that's just what I was thinking about when I was, thinking about this surgery. Like, am I going to get some 80-year-old person who's like bedridden, tissues to build my ACL, and then in 2 years I have to worry about having this same surgery again because I didn't get a donor that had a strong enough, tendons for what I would hopefully like to do, which is get me back to the point where I'm lifting heavy, I'm lifting often, I'm running 40 miles a week, I'm going on 5 to 10 mile runs every single week. So hopefully I can get back to that point. Obviously it's going to be a very long time when it comes to my recovery, but that is the decision that my orthopedic surgeon and I have come to the resolution on, which we are doing the cadaver. Now, I know some of you have had an ACL surgery. I know some of you just recently tore your ACL and you're trying to figure out which surgery to have. So I really hope this video helped out a lot. There's a ton, and I'm talking about, there's so much information. That's one of the worst things about the time that we live in. You have all the information for everything at your fingertips. And the drawback is you also have all of the information at your fingertips. So if you wanted to, you could get on there and type in, is the patella tendon graft a good, ACL reconstructive surgery to have? And if you type it in a certain way, or if you click on a certain website, everything that they talk about will say, yes, this is the best one. You should definitely do this one. And then if you have that same search, but for the hamstring, it will also say, yes, this is the best one. Yes, this is the one you should do. This is the one that makes you recover the most. So like I said, if you're struggling, if you don't know which one to have, I highly recommend just having a sit down with your orthopedic surgeon. Maybe they have the best success rate for a specific type of surgery. Like I said, my surgeon says he does not do the patella tendon. He said if you want that done, I could do it. I just have not had good results. You can go to a different orthopedic surgeon. I just don't want that on my conscience. Like, yes, I could do it. I am very knowledgeable. I'm good at my craft. I am a good surgeon, but it's just not one that I recommend, nor one that I do because I just don't recommend it for long-term, longevity purposes. So really appreciate you stopping by. Hopefully you stopped by because you just wanted to hear about the journey, learn some new stuff today, and you're not in the position where you have to get ACL reconstructive surgery because it's not fun. Not fun at all. But I really appreciate you stopping by. If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to get notified every time I post a video. Leave a comment in the comment section down below of, your journey. Like I said, if you had surgery, which one did you pick and why? And how are you feeling? Do you have knee pain? Are you able to extend your knee? Are you back to a healthy lifestyle? Hopefully all the comments that I see are like, yes, I'm back and I'm good to go. That'd be great. But just like that, I will see you in the next one. Peace.